Okay, I'm going to give one more brief lecture about how to write your lab reports and go over some basic things related to formatting an APA style. So your lab reports should have all of these sections that I mentioned in the last video. Um, for this assignment that's due this week, there will be a point awarded for each of these seven, right? Um, 7 sections that are required. And also, as I mentioned, if you want to see if something's a primary source document, look for these sections as well as in scholarly sources. So the abstract, even though it comes first after the title page, you actually should write it last. It's basically, I described the abstract as like the back cover of a book that you wanted to read. So you're going to give a summary of the most important findings in your research study. You should give maybe a sentence for each of the other sections of your paper. So a sentence for the intro, method, results, discussion. And just about the formatting, abstract goes at its own page. The word abstract is centered at the top of the page, and then the actual paragraph is not indented. Then you start on a new page for the introduction. So for the introduction, you have the title of your paper centered, not bold. Um, and then in your introduction, it's going to be a literature review leading up to your hypothesis. So, for your final paper, you should have several research studies that you're summarizing in your own words and giving the main points that are most important to your current study. You should end the introduction section with your hypothesis, a brief overview of what you're going to be studying. Um, for the assignment that's due this Friday, the introduction might be a good section to include your direct quote and your paraphrase that are due in correct APA format. After the introduction section, you don't need to go to a new page anymore. You would just, in the next line, you would have the word method. That would be in bold, centered, and then you would go to your method section. So your method section, maybe you give a little brief overview, and then you're going to have 3 subsections. Each of these words are going to be left aligned and bold on their own line. So it'd be participants, apparatus or materials. It's most likely going to be materials in this class, and procedure. So the participants, you're going to give as much information as possible about your overall group of participants. Don't need any individual information about anyone, and everyone should stay completely confidential, but describe the overall group characteristics. So your participants range from ages 20 to 25, and you had 14 males and 16 females, and what was the racial breakdown, etc. The materials, what are the things that you used in your research study. So if you have a survey, you're going to describe it a little bit, but then refer to it uh, and include the full version in the appendix, but just mention that you have it in the appendix during the method section. Describe any other materials that were used that you handed out. And then the procedure is written like a cookbook. Your procedure is going to be a step by step, very, very detailed description of exactly what you did during the research study. Um, if I don't know anything about your research study, I should be able to read the procedure section and be able to conduct the same exact research study by myself. And again, the reason for this replicability is so important because you want to make sure that the research findings are accurate. So if you find one finding and I find the complete opposite, we want to get to the bottom of that. What is really going on here? But you also want to be able to extend your research. If you found that you supported your hypothesis in your group of friends and family members, then we want to see, does that actually apply to college students in general, or does that actually apply outside of New Jersey? You want to keep making it broader and broader. So um, we want to be able to copy that research and also to be able to critique it. Maybe I don't agree with your operational definition or the procedure that you used. So when I read somebody else's research, I want to be able to think critically about what they did so that I can draw my own conclusions, which may or may not be different from theirs. The results section, you're going to explain what happened, but purely in statistical terms. So you're going to give the descriptive statistics, you're going to maybe give the group averages and the standard deviations for your experimental group and control group if you didn't experiment, and then you're going to give the inferential statistics. So if you ran a t-test, if you ran Pearson's correlation, whatever inferential statistic you ran, and we'll talk about that more in class as we go through the different research methods, but hopefully a lot of that is a review from 301. You're not going to really explain what those statistics mean. You're just going to provide them in sentence format. If you want to include maybe bar graphs of your results or any visual displays, that will go in the end of your paper. You would label them as the different number tables. If you include a table, talk about it in the text. So in your results section, right, see table 1. But you don't want to include any tables that are repeats of things that you said or that would be easier to just say. So when you print out SPSS, don't include the table that like lists all of the descriptive statistics. You want to write that in your own words and then just include a table of like a bar graph because that's easier to see than to read. The discussion section is going to be your explanation of the results, but now it's in English, not in statistics. So you're going to explain what really happened. Did you support your hypothesis or not? And then you're going to have, again, 3 main parts of the discussion. So it's that explanation of the results. I should be able to walk away from the discussion section really knowing what the most important findings of your results of your whole entire research study was. And I know a lot of you, when you do research, you probably just read the discussion section in a research study. Yours should read that clearly as well. You also want to tell me the limitations. So what are some of the problems that was found? If you used a convenient sample, if you only studied your family and friends, that's a limitation. It's fine. We're obviously going to have limitations in all research that we do, but you want to be clear cut and explain what you could have done better in your own research. And then you want to provide ideas for future research or implications of the research. So the ideas for future research should stem very clearly out of the limitations. If your limitations was that your whole entire sample was white, well, that's a big limitation, in your future research should say that your demographics should be more diverse and should include makeup of all racial and ethnic backgrounds. But then if you have any implications of the research, that would be if there's anything that you learn that could be used to help people. If you learn that studying in silence makes you remember more words than studying with music on, then maybe you want to say that you recommend to people at the beginning of the semester that they study in quiet libraries and they make their room quiet as opposed to having a TV on, having music on. Whatever the case may be. We should walk away from the discussion section really having a clear idea of why the research was done, why it's important, and where to go next. I talked about the figures already. Again, make sure they're labeled figure 1, figure 2, table 1, table 2 underneath the picture. And then also, sorry, isn't included here is the reference page. That should be an APA format. When you do your reference page, you should let the library website help you out. So there is a button where you could click on Cite and make sure you copy and paste the APA one. However, I do warn you that there are very, very often mistakes in that. So a lot of the capitalization is sometimes off, or the italics. Make sure that you proofread, you're writing in proper APA format, because you will lose points even if you copied something off of the library. Make sure that you follow the 6th edition of the APA manual. So if you don't have that manual already, it probably is a really good idea to get it before you go to grad school, if those are your plans. But you can also Google OWL, O-W-L, Purdue, P-U-R-D-U-E, APA. That's a really good online resource for looking at APA formatting, and that can walk you through in text citations, reference page, title page, everything that you need to know for Friday. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. Post a message for everyone to see and ask your instructor, or schedule a meeting with me for online office hours. I will finally see you guys next week. Take care.